Like Hello, saludos. We're starting off Latino Heritage Month. So happy to see everybody's beautiful faces, these colors, wow, the food is amazing. Is everybody in? We need everybody inside. Yes. Ooh, the silence. I need everyone in this room to repeat after me. Que lo que? Real loud when I say. It's saying what's up in Dominican, but we're going to say it real loud. 1, 2, 3. Que lo que? Great. Now that I have your attention, my name is Sky Cabrera. This is for the man on West Farm Square beneath the 2 line, who takes water from fire hydrants to make coffee to send to his parents in Colombia so that they can survive. This is for the Boricuas on Southern Boulevard, playing salsa, hustling rosary beads and refurbished flat screen TVs. This is for the Mexicanos on Hollywood and Vine, selling firecrackers, but shh, don't try to search for him because he sent off another hustler who does it for him, unafraid of doing time. They say it's illegal, but those gringos in Huntington Beach love to see it in the sky on the 4th of July. This is for the Cubanas, the Brujas, upstairs in apartment 4C, that teach me Orisha, cowrie shells, and love potions so that your husband stays sweet. This is for the Mexicanos, the tortilleros on Laurel Canyon Boulevard that stay up till 3, so that after you're done perreando at the club, you can still have some tortas to eat. They upgraded a Venmo, but in case you lost your wallet, it's all good. They'll still feed you. There's love in these streets. This is for the 30-something-year-old rappers still selling CDs on Venice Beach. Sorry, Papi, I don't have any cash, but you just inspired me to pursue my dreams. This is for the Salvadoreños pushing metal shopping carts of roses and carnations below our street in Flushing, Queens. This is for the Dominicans and bodegas that offered me credit way before Discover Card ever took a chance on me. This is for the immigrantes, the ones that make America so beautiful. Where would we be without them? Thank you. I'm introducing you to somebody very special right now. This is my grandmother, so here we go.
Okay, I'm getting, me estoy cambiando porque me estaba bañando, pero mándalo.
That's actually my cousin, but let's go to the next one. Could you imagine? Wow, imagine what I actually would have played.
Gracias, mi niña linda. Yo te quiero muchísimo también. Yo a ustedes lo adoro. Gracias por mandarme ese mensaje. Cuídate, mi amor, pórtate bien. Recuérdate lo que yo siempre te he dicho. Cualquier cosa en tu vida, llama a abuelita, consulta conmigo lo que tú quieres y cuenta conmigo durante yo esté viva y voy a estar viva para mucho. Mi linda, cuídate, que te adoro.
I can't wait to tell her that she's famous. Abuela, you made it to San Francisco. I do it for Abuela, the matriarch. I do it for Indiana with a Y, mi abuela. I do it for my accent that has spread across this land and the bandera that is my last name, Cabrera. I do it for the Hermana Mirabal sisters. I'm chopping down Trujillos like machete because I am the echoes of butterflies. I do it for my friends in the Dominican Republic that still can't afford a stove. And every time I get a little money, I Western Union them because it makes me feel better than buying Christian Dior expensive clothes. I'm different than you, I know. I do it for my cousins, especially the queer ones that still haven't found their voice. My family is my mycelium, my network. Before Facebook, before Instagram, before LinkedIn, we've been linked in. Our ancestry, before Wi-Fi, we've been connected. I do this for 148th and Broadway, Harlem, waking up at 5 a.m. to the sound of the alarm clock. That is my abuela banging pots, making mangu and salami for her 7 sons to go out into New York City. I do it for my abuelo, for that Juan Luis Guerra playing on the record player, sitting on his lap with his pinky up, sipping from the finest china cup, his dark and sweet Bustelo. Black coffee, black like his beautiful black Dominican skin, illuminating his gold tooth shining in his pinky rings, Cuban links around his chest, CK1, overwhelmingly so. A guy dressed in Ralph Lauren trousers and dress shirt, in his brown leather penny loafers with actual pennies in them for good luck. And he's whistling Fefita La Grande as he goes downstairs to his Lincoln white town car, cruising past Harlem River Drive because his hustle is seeing who has their hand lifted up so he can give them a ride. My grandfather gave lifts before Lyft even existed. Gave lifts before Lyft even existed, and his name was Hipólito Corporán, cruising down the FDR Drive with Radio Wado blasting, talking about some politics from 1950. And then he would come home with wads of cash in his pocket, untaxed, $20 bills lined up across the plastic couch. Sticky in the summer, I know. And he would eat his sweet plantains with carne mechán. We would stare at the balcony that was our fire escape as the fruit of the loom's underwears dried. Being Dominican is being happy with the smallest things. And I do it for my grandmother, who would put 5 buckets outside in the yard to carry rainwater, because in Dominican Republic, the lights go out almost every 3 hours. During the summer, we would learn how to share water with each other. Business administration, economic sanctions before degrees could even teach us that. And my grandmother was a doctor. Vicks vapor rub on our chests. Some jarabe de palo, jarabe de no sé qué, jarabe de cebolla, that somehow would keep us without a cold all winter long. She was the backbone to every man in that household. And her compassion was the bridge to every dream they ever had. She'd sit on the mecedora and give us advice that Reddit could never give us. And this is from my dad, who came to New York fresh off the boat with no degree and ugly crocodile shoes. Somehow found his way to own one of the biggest electrical companies in the Bronx, still to this day, 20 years strong. I don't know how he did it, but he had this thing called muela. a way of speaking, a way of communicating something that you want, just the way he got my mother is the same way. I don't know. Yeah, I think that was it, honestly, because he's not an attractive guy, but he's Dominican. And he had swing and he had charm and he had a way of doing things and he gave that to me. And I do this for me. I'm able to stand into this room without a degree, but I have stories that hold value. My ancestors, the Latinos, were storytellers, and that's in me. I have a DNA, a tool belt of skills. So when people ask me what I do, I simply ask them, what can't I do? I'm Dominican. I'll learn it. Thank you. I have so much more to give you, so hire me, call me. Instagram, Sky.Cabrera. Thank you.
Well, welcome home, familia. Let me say that one more time. Welcome home, familia. Hi. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for grounding us, reminding us, celebrating us, honoring us, for the reasons that we are here today, the people who have made us. My mother and my father, mommy and papi, I love you. And you're watching right now, seeing this brilliant Dominican woman from the Heights with roots in the Bronx, telling our stories at LinkedIn. We're ready to take over. That's just what we do. It's our ingenuity, our creativity, our love of family, our love of community, our love of culture, our love of one another, our brilliance, our grit, our determination that brought us to this place. It is every mommy and papi right now who may be in a living room, maybe even watching right now. They are the reason we are here because they sacrificed. They left their countries with nothing in their hands. They bent their backs in jobs that they never even thought they would ever have to do. Drive trucks, deliver food, work in factories, work in the fields, work in the jobs that nobody sees. California, the invisible worker. They're all over here in LinkedIn. They may not be seen, but they are here. This is us. This is Latinos in California, across the United States. We've earned our right to call the United States home. We've earned our right to demand more. We've earned the right to say our parents, our grandparents, they put in their part. They did pay $300 billion worth of taxes every single year. They are the ones opening up businesses because since 2007, Latino businesses have grown for more than 50%. So when there was a recession in this country, it was Latinos that lifted this country back up again. Because we are creators. We are creators. We're more than taxpayers. We are creators. We're builders. We're architects. We're artists. We know what we want. We have the dreams. We have the vision. And now it's our turn to say, let me get what our parents deserve and try to build those promises that this country gave them that haven't been fully fulfilled. Here in California, where you can't even afford to buy your own place, even though you might have 3 jobs and you've been here for more than 4 decades. and your kid went to college, got a great degree, a good job, and they still don't have enough for a down payment because they're still paying back loans from school. Latinos are going to change that. And today you're going to hear from Max Vargas, who's going to talk about us not being just about the economic recovery, but about an economic renaissance that would allow us to finally live up to the ideals of this country. It's us. We don't have to wait for anybody else to build it. It is us. It's why the Latino Giving Circle Network exists. How many of you are here today representing your giving circle? Stand up, be recognized, be proud of what you've built. In this state, more than 5, stand up, Sadi, I'm seeing one of the architects right there, Adri. I saw a few more of you around. These creators said, I'm not gonna wait for someone to solve my problem. I'm gonna roll up my sleeve. I'm gonna take and invest and give back. Because like Sky said, we prefer to pay back and pay it forward and lift others up than invest in a name brand or some type of a designer belt. We like it too, because I like my shoes. But we know how to do both because we're hustlers. But the joy that we get for giving back to our community is why LCF exists. And I went off script because this woman made me cry because she reminded me of my roots. And I hope she made my parents proud. I know she made my parents proud today. The Latino Community Foundation exists to unleash the power that Sky was talking about. There is no other foundation in this state or in this country that is saying, I am solely investing in unleashing the civic and economic power of Latinos because we deserve it. We do it at LCF because we know that when we invest in Latinos, it's not just us, it's everyone who thrives. I said it about the recession in 2007. It was Latinas and Latinos that helped us build this country back up again. It's also the reason why LCF has invested more than $25 million in grassroots organizations across the state. We started from nothing. Masha and Sadi can attest to that. And Latinas and women and immigrants came together and said, how do we build an institution that will allow Latinos to fulfill their dreams and their promises? And here we are, still standing, even after a pandemic, still standing. And this is just the beginning for us. We make up 40% of the population in California alone, 15 million strong. We are not only the economic power of our state, we are also the power that holds our democracy together. So we win when we invest in Latinos. In May of 2020, when the pandemic, we were 3 months in, we had the foresight of knowing that even though we've paid our dues and given back and supported this economy, that no one was going to come to our rescue. So we build the entrepreneurship fund to ensure that the undocumented workers, that the entrepreneurs who hustle to put food on the table for their families, to earn a living with dignity and respect, that they too have the access to the capital to stay afloat and to still dream bigger dreams, because we knew that the end of this pandemic would come, and we knew that it was Latinos who was going to pick us up again. So when we created this fund, we had a big vision. In fact, Masha has reminded me, let's raise $100 million for our entrepreneurs. We deserve it. We are in California. And Max will remind you today that if Latinos were our own country, we'd be the 7th largest country in the world. Think about that for a second. The 7th largest country in the world. So yes, we drive this economy, and yes, we deserve for our entrepreneurs to be given a chance to grow their businesses and to build on those dreams that they have, because there is no shortage of dreams or vision from our entrepreneurs, and there is no shortage of grit, determination, and strength. So today we're here to celebrate all of that. Juan, it's so good to see you in this crowd. This man was a former ED of La Luz, and we took a walk around Lake Mary. He says, Jacqueline, I have a dream of building a Latino-led CDFI that would make it possible for Latino businesses to access the capital that they deserve. And he's done it. It's taken a lot of sweat, blood, and tears, but he's done it. And so have 4 other Latino-led CDFIs that are part of the network that LCF has invested in Fresno. Rudy is here from Inclusive Action. This man is a fighter for our people. He raises the voices of our vendors and our entrepreneurs and reminds the people that they are also part of the bloodline and the heartbeat of cities like LA and the Mission and all across the state of California. And in Washington Heights Sky, where we can get our little corn with a little bit of dulce de leche on the side, or just, it's Latinos that make our community so brilliant and vibrant, and people like Rudy are reminding those people in power that without Latinos, our economy would sink, and that Latinos deserve a seat at those tables and deserve to have the resources to make their families break out of those cycles of poverty. We are trying to build wealth for our people, and that's what this entrepreneurship fund is all about. It's not just about building the floor, it's about breaking the ceiling and helping our children build wealth so that they don't have to struggle, but that they can be consumers, investors, homeowners. That's what this is all about. And I just want to say that today we want to invest in that more through our Latino Giving Circle network, this network that's now the largest philanthropic movement in the country. Today, we're ready to launch the first ever Latino Entrepreneurship Giving Circle in the state of California. Because of a couple of the investments that have been made for this day, we've already started to build the support that we want to give to entrepreneurs. So as you're sitting here today and you're thinking about how do I get involved, what do I do to amplify and support and leverage what's already there? Join it. But then don't just join it yourself. Get your companies like the LinkedIn and the Googles and the Apples and all those other places that really depend, again, on Latino consumers to also invest in this entrepreneurship fund, because we are in San Francisco and we have the resources to make these dreams come a reality. Thank you for being here. I said I was going to make a toast with agua fresca. Let me get the agua fresca. So this is to every Latina entrepreneur who's made her dream come true. This is for everyone who has fought for our Latino entrepreneurs. This is for everyone who is a son or daughter of a Latina entrepreneur. This is for all the dreams that have yet to be realized. Salud to you. Salud to us unleashing our power. Salud to us celebrating our culture. Salud, Mommy and Papi. Thank you for all that you've done. All that you've done to help us get to where we are today. We love you, our Latino family, our immigrant family. We love you. Celebramos y continuamos. Max, it's all yours.
Bravo, Jackie!
Wow, so incredible. One more time for Jacqueline. Our fearless leader with such vision, such heart, and breaking news of sorts that folks haven't caught on yet was just announced that she'll be featured in Variety's Power of Women issue later this month. And that's alongside Nobel laureate Malala, alongside Hillary Clinton, some huge names, and none bigger than our own Jacqueline. A real example of our Poder Latino, and that's actually, what we're here to talk about, right? We're here to talk about our poder, the one we share. And, I had some notes, but as Jacqueline was sharing and talking about sort of the path here and the journey here, it made me think back on my own, right? We think back on our families, we think back on that hustle, and there's this entrepreneurial spirit that's there in all of us through herencia, through legado, through heritage that we bring with us. We can't escape it. We will hustle in every space we can. We will make it happen. And Sky's powerful words earlier, it just had me flashing back to even my childhood. arriving here as a young immigrant with, as an immigrant family, doing all sorts of work. And we had to see all that level of entrepreneurship, whether it was cleaning houses, food service, newspaper delivery, you name it. Often it was like 3 or 4 jobs. And I'm sure a lot of folks have seen and lived that in their families. And I think that's why we're here also to talk about power, because we want to take that power, leverage it, grow it in a way so that we're having an economy, we're building an economy that can actually work as hard as we work for it, right? Latinos work so hard, right? It's one of the biggest like taglines about us. It's just one of these, it's a great positive in a way, right? At the same time, it's saying we need it to be working for us, right? And that is the justice we want to see and bring forth. And that's part of my role as the Vice President of Economic Justice here at the Latino Community Foundation, to think about how we bring justice to every space, especially in this economic space where we give so much, where we work so hard, where we sacrifice so much, generationally, right? It's not just us, it's been generations of work. And to that point, it's really about that power we have. It's going to help. It's there for us, for our families, for our communities, really for the nation. And we have that power to build an economic renaissance. Jacqueline already alluded to it, but it's worth just emphasizing. If we were our own economy, Latinos in the US would be the 7th largest economy in the world. 7th, right? That's a powerhouse. That's something that says we need to be talking about leadership, not just a seat at the table, right? But an opportunity to build a whole new table. And that's exactly where we need to be heading, because when we think about a system of renaissance, as we're framing it as an opportunity to build more, we need to be considering the fact that for the longest time, especially in the last couple of years, we've been talking about recovery. We've been talking about rebuilding. And I think you all know in this room that recovery is not sufficient. We know that only gets us so far, and definitely not as far as we deserve to get and deserve to yield. And that's where the Renaissance comes, right? We've been through the dark ages, we've been through the plague, we've been through the pandemic. Now we need a Renaissance, and we're here to drive that, right? We're the 7th largest economy. We've had systems that have been extractive, predatory, exclusionary, and now, those are things that are tired. But what's inspired is Latinos leading the charge, leading not just a recovery, but a Renaissance. And I think to that point, I absolutely have to lift up the fact that Latinopreneurs, our Latinas in the economy, are going to be part of that powerhouse. In fact, are in the driver's seat for so much of this recovery, for so much of this Renaissance. Right? We're talking about a Renaissance we can drive, not just because we have population numbers, but because we have entrepreneurial spirit. Latinos are the most entrepreneurial as a community, but the Latinas in our community are just leading the charge. They're opening businesses at 6 times the national average. They comprise nearly half of all Latino businesses, right? They're the tip of the spear, the engine, in the driver's seat. All, enter metaphor here. That's our Latinopreneurs. And we need that work of the ecosystem that Jacqueline referenced, the work of Crecer, the work of Inclusive Action, and so many partners to make sure that there's a system there, that there's an ecosystem there, that there's capacity building, that there's access to capital, that there is support to unleash their power. Because Latinopreneurs are facing challenges like the Latina wage gap in the workforce, right? Our Latino community is facing challenges like the Latino wealth gap, where, if you peg the median Latino household wealth, it's less than 1/5 of white households, right? Those are huge gaps. And yet, despite those challenges, despite those gaps, we're still leading the charge on entrepreneurialism, right? Still leading the charge in opening businesses, launching new enterprises, hiring folks through those businesses, creating jobs, and helping drive the economy forward. And so that's precisely what we're here today to focus on, to build that just economy, to build that renaissance, to ensure that we're building something that is commensurate with our skill, with our culture, with our love, with the heart, and with our community that we know and love. And so with that, I want to say thank you for being here. I want to lift up the fact that you're all part of that renaissance. We're going to be here to flourish. We're going to be here to build that work together and to shed more light on this brilliance and this opportunity, the fact that Latinos have that Poder Latino to drive this renaissance. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Barbara Gomez Aguinaga. She's the Associate Director of the Stanford Entrepreneurship Initiative. We're so pleased to have her here to highlight and lift up more of this focus for us. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And then I'm going to remove this. Oh, yeah, I'll take that. Yes. Thank you so much. Oh, no. Okay. All right. And of course, I have to have slides, right? Because I'm an academic and that's a big portion of what we do. But yeah. Okay. This should be better. So yeah, thank you so much, Max, and thank you so much, everyone, for inviting me. As Max was mentioning, I'm the Associate Director of the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. And today I'll be presenting some of the facts and statistics that we have found about Latino business owners and how they compare to white business owners. As Max was saying, Latinos in the United States are growing rapidly. And of course, they are important members of our society, right? We know that rapidly they are increasing their levels and access to higher education. We also know that Latinos and Latinas are important members of the labor force, but that's not it. Latino businesses are becoming more and more important right as we speak. And despite of all these strengths that we have as a communities and as business owners, and despite contributing $2.7 trillion every year to the U.S. economy, Latino entrepreneurs continue to face challenges that we will, and some of them that we will discuss today. So I'll be talking about firm and employee growth, the career and career advancement opportunities that Latino entrepreneurs give to their employees, as well as the tech pipeline for Latino businesses. And at the very end, we'll cover some of the challenges that the panelists will expand on later on. So before we start, I would like to talk briefly about the program, the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative. We're not alone. We're a strong collaboration between the Latino Business Action Network, of which Jennifer Garcia is right here. So thank you, Jennifer. And we're also a collaboration with the Stanford Graduate School of Business. We basically conduct research on the state and the ecosystem of Latino businesses across the United States. And research-wise, I'm proud to say that we have a very strong and robust program. We have been conducting this type of research since 2015, and we're about to release early next year our 8th report on the state of Latino entrepreneurs. And not only we stay at just research, we know that our impact has been great for our communities. We have been able to inform the public, business owners, banks, decision makers, and even elected officials on the best paths to achieve economic equity through entrepreneurship in the United States for Latinos. So yeah, that being said, let's begin with the fact that Latinos are important job creators across the United States. For the past 15 years, Latinos have generated jobs at a very faster rate than white business owners. And in fact, as you can see in this graph, the number of jobs created by Latino-owned businesses has increased from 1.9 million in 2007 to 2.9 million in 2019. That is a growth rate of 50% in the past 15 years. Whereas the employee growth rate for white business owners has only been 9%. And Latinos are creating jobs, of course, but it's not any type of jobs, right? We know that the jobs that Latinos are generating are quality jobs that have benefits to their employees who also tend to be Latinos. This figure presents the type of benefits that Latino business owners provide to their employees. Latinos are in the green bars, and then non-Hispanic whites are in the blue bars. And as you can see here, Latino business owners provide more benefits across virtually every type of category that you can see, whether it's health, retirement options, stocks, wellness programs, and even tuition assistance for their employees. And I'm also proud to say that our research has helped break down some stereotypes about Latino businesses in the United States. In fact, our research has found that Latinos do not belong to a very specific type of business industry, as some of us might believe, right? In fact, Latino businesses are across all industries, and if not, they're more likely to be in the areas that we most need them the most, including technology and software products. Using the data from the U.S. Census Bureau, we find that Latinos and white business owners are pretty much have the same type of businesses across the country. And through our national survey that dives deeper into the characteristics and performance metrics of Latino and white business owners, we found that Latino business owners are more likely to be in tech than white business owners. 19% of all businesses owned by Latinos are in tech, compared to only 14% of businesses for non-Hispanic whites. And so far it's pretty nice, not right? Very positive. Latinos are creating jobs at a faster rate. Not only that, but Latinos are also creating quality jobs for our communities, and Latinos are in all industries. Yet, I have to say that not everything is sunshine and flowers, because Latino business owners face very substantial challenges, as we will talk right now. So we know that access to capital is critical for the success of businesses across the board. And one of the challenges that Latino business owners have faced is related to capital from bank loans. And our studies have shown that even after controlling for business performance measures, Latinos are 60% less likely to get a bank loan from a major bank. And that happened, that statistic comes from 2020. Unfortunately, that's not it. We know that we were talking about how Latinos are more likely to be in tech and software. And despite of that, Latino businesses only accounted for slightly less than 2% of all the venture funding in 2021. And when we think about the challenges that Latinos face, we have to talk about gender. As Max was mentioning earlier, besides capital, gender is an important drive of our communities, our business communities in the United States. But during the pandemic, Latinas were hit very hard. In fact, during the pandemic, Latinas were the group that was most impacted by businesses because of the event. Our study shows that Latina in 2020, in the beginning of the pandemic and throughout the year, there were twice as many Latina businesses closed during the pandemic than white-led companies. So that was a very big challenge for Latinas. But not only that, when we asked what happened to their businesses, how they were weathering the pandemic, Latina-led companies had the worst negative implications of the pandemic. 41% of Latina business owners reported the worst outcomes during the pandemic, including, closures, loss of profit, increasing debt, and so on. So that's 41% of all Latina business owners, compared to 37% of white women-led businesses and 32% of Latino businesses, as well as 31% of white male Latino businesses. No, just white businesses. And just to close, I want to mention and highlight that, of course, Latinos are important members of our communities. Latinos are important members of our communities as well as the U.S. economy. Of course, they are important members of the labor force. And Latino business owners are also killing it out there, right? We know that they're growing and becoming more and more important, not only for their families, for their communities, but also for the U.S. economy. They're growing, they're creating more companies at a faster rate. They're also creating more jobs at a faster rate. And they're also quality jobs, right? Not only that, but Latinos are more likely to be in tech than white-owned businesses. But despite of all that, those beautiful, amazing strengths, there are very severe challenges related to owning a businesses for Latinos, including capital and gender gaps. And those gaps have to be addressed so that Latino business owners reach their full potential and strengthen the U.S. economy. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Doctora Barbara. When I called her and I said, okay, we need to have you there, she's like, yes, I'll make it happen. And it was like week 1 that you had started, something like that. But early on. Mucho gusto. Soy Veronica. My name is Veronica. I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship for the Latino Community Foundation. And it's such a pleasure to welcome you guys to the space. We made it happen. We're at LinkedIn. Can we get a round of applause for that? I want to take a quick, and not quick because you have to be fast, Maria, but I definitely want to acknowledge that LinkedIn opened the door. We wanted to make an intentional connection with technology, and thank you for touching on that, Doctora Barbara. That's a sector for us as Latinos, whether it's in business or creator, that is ripe for us. And we want to make sure that we are intentional about how we build bridges there. So I want to welcome Maria, who has been amazing in hosting us. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself and welcome us officially to LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Thank you, Veronica. I am a proud member of the Peninsula Giving Circle. Thank you, Sadi, for bringing me into the circle. Thank you, Masha, for always making me feel like a part of the LCF family. It is with great honor and privilege that I say welcome to LinkedIn, not just as an executive engagement consultant, but as an OLA leader. OLA is the Latino and Hispanic ERG at LinkedIn. And of course, we're also kicking off Hispanic Heritage Month. And I passed on all opportunities to engage with LinkedIn-led events today because I said, I'm going to do this for LCF. They own a big piece of real estate in my heart, especially because I've seen the work that we do together. As the mother of 2 Latina entrepreneurs in tech, I want to tell you, we are here, we are proud, and we belong. I'm a marketer in tech. My older daughter is an engineer and entrepreneur. In fact, she was the 2015 Google Entrepreneur of the Year. The first woman and the only Latina. And nobody knew that she was Latina because she covered it in order to get funding. And she could do that because she's very much more white presenting than I am. Her father is from Iceland. What she did do was call me and see, Mami gané. And the Forbes reporter heard her speaking Spanish and uncovered her. So it was a very proud moment for her to say, yes, I'm Latina. I'm the first woman entrepreneur winner for Google Entrepreneur of the Year, and I'm a proud Latina. That was in 2015. More recently, my younger daughter, who's also a Stanford alumna and an MD, left her role as a resident in psychiatry to co-found a startup for mental health. And she recognizes that it's really important to get culturally appropriate support and long-term health support for those people that need it in their language, whether that's English, Spanish, or another language. So we are out there making the world a better place in high-tech buildings like mine, and in backyards and in garages in our homes everywhere. We all grew up with entrepreneurs in our homes. I'm originally from Venezuela. La vecina hacía paletas en su casa. We didn't call her an entrepreneur. Era la señora Lola. Una paleta, por favor, de coco, okay? All of us know this woman because they're all in our families. My grandmother sold some things that she would buy in New York when she visited us, when she went back to Valencia in Venezuela. Entrepreneurship runs deep in our DNA. Philanthropy runs deep in our DNA. I have never thrown out a garment of clothes. I have a prima, I have an amiga, I have la iglesia. We have always been philanthropic. So when people tell us we're not doctors, we're not lawyers, we're not engineers, we're not marketers in high tech, I want you to think of me. I want you to think of the people in this room and remember, yes, we are, and yes, we do. Not only do we belong, but we make this country a better place. So welcome to LinkedIn. I hope all of you are part of the 800 million plus people with a LinkedIn profile. If you're not, come and find me. I will fix that problem for you. At LinkedIn, we're very proud to host you, and we're proud to be an accelerator to bring economic opportunity to every member of the workforce in the world. So welcome. Están en su casa.
Our community, our family is powerful, guys. Y gracias, Maria. Thank you for reminding us of the power of our stories, the power of our family. Por eso estamos aquí. Quickly to tell you about my connection to this next amazing CDFI panel that you're going to be hearing about. My journey began at La Luz Center, and Juan and I worked there to create equitable opportunities for our Latino community in Sonoma County. And I remember Juan saying when I first met him, if this can be created anywhere in the world, it has to happen in Sonoma because you have the highest economic disparity. And those times that we worked together, those years, we did that. So to now be able to share the space and introduce this next panel and understand the power of what can come if you open access to capital for businesses. And I just saw my La Luz family over there, so I'm gonna give them a shout out. It's critical, it's important. I think that as Latinos, in my experience, we don't always think about the resources that are available. We think about our own pocket, we think about our savings account and our credit cards. But there are other resources, and that's why this panel is going to be very powerful. I also want to share my husband's in the audience, and he did receive, yes, here to support me. And he is an entrepreneur himself. He also was a benefactor of a CDFI or a loan, and allowed him to really build his dream of screen printing in a way that gave back to the community and working closely with nonprofits in Sonoma County. So it runs deep, my connection to this, and I really wanted to make sure that this was a part of the conversation. What you're going to hear about is a panel that will share with you what exactly a CDFI is. So can you raise your hand if you know what a CDFI is and what that stands for? Okay. By the end of the day and the session, all hands will be risen because you will understand that. You will also hear about the unique role that our Latino-led CDFIs are playing in building access to capital, to small businesses, to entrepreneurs, to solopreneurs, to micro enterprises. And also, which is very important, is the kind of system changes that are necessary to make this happen more often and in the communities that other banks are not necessarily going to. CDFIs are really that connection and that bridge. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to our lovely panel moderator. Paulina, if you want to start joining us. So Paulina Gonzalez Brito identifies as Chicana, Perechua, and Mestiza. Mi familia también es de México, o de Michoacán, so igual ahí está. Paisana, sí, exactamente. They have dedicated more than 25 years of their life to leading economic and racial justice campaigns. And under her leadership, California Reinvestment Coalition has expanded its work to directly challenge systems and structural racism within the U.S. financial system. So you're in for an amazing panel, an amazing moderator. Let's go ahead and give Paulina an official welcome to the stage.
Thank you, Vero. My name is Paulina Gonzalez Brito. I'm really happy to be here today. And thank you to the Latino Community Foundation, to Jackie, for bringing us all together. I have to say, brown is beautiful. Yeah. And so we're going to hear about the power of Latino-led CDFIs today. And before we do that, I want to share a story about myself. Stories are important. They tell us where we come from and where we're going. And CDFIs are especially important to me because they provide financial services to people who are often excluded from the traditional banking services. And my parents, I grew up in Southeast Los Angeles from immigrant parents from Mexico. And I remember when I was a kid, waking up at 5 a.m. on the weekends. I hated it. I really wanted to sleep in, but I woke up at 5 a.m. to be able to go help my parents set up a tiendita at the swap meet. And we used to sell kitchenwares. So pots and pans, dishes, anything you needed for your kitchen, we had it. And it was not only a way to supplement our income, but it was a way to have pride and joy in what we did. We didn't have a boss. My parents didn't have a boss. It was pride in our little tiendita. But at that time, banks, and even today, banks don't give loans to people like my parents. They didn't have a credit score. They didn't have collateral. They didn't have years and years of tax returns to be able to show a profit in their little tiendita. And so there was no way for us to be able to get a loan to expand our business. And imagine if we had been able to get a loan and get a brick and mortar shop that could be passed on generation to generation. And the truth is that white Americans have had that opportunity throughout history, but Latinos have not, and neither have Black Americans. And so I want to level set. I know some of you raised your hand. A lot of you raised your hand on what a CDFI is, a community development financial institution. It's a mouthful. But I just want to level set a little bit about the history of CDFIs. As I mentioned, they're an alternative to the banking system. They're a way for people to access financial services when there is nowhere else to go. But that history, that kind of movement of CDFIs has a long history in the US. In 1865, the Freedmen Savings Bank was created. Have you all heard about the Freedmen Savings Bank? No? So the Freedmen Savings Bank was created to be able to hold the deposits, the wages of formerly enslaved people, so they could have a safe place to be able to deposit their wages. And it was a place where they could get a loan to be able to purchase land. So formerly enslaved people could purchase land. Traditional banks were not going to serve formerly enslaved people, but the Freedmen Savings Bank did, and did exactly that. That is the history of alternative financial institutions in our country, and it's really important to recognize that. There are only a handful of Latino-led CDFIs in California, and we know that representation matters. If you look like our community, if you talk like our community, you're more likely to represent us in a much better way than anybody else. And during the pandemic, we learned that as banks struggled to get PPP loans out, Latino-led CDFIs got PPP loans out. And so it's really important that we have representation in the CDFI industry. This California Reinvestment Coalition, I didn't say where I work. That's where I work. And we actually work to close the racial wealth gap. And we do that by ensuring that banks find that they invest in our communities in an equitable manner. We founded the Resilience Fund, a $4.5 million fund to help emerging and nascent Latino, Black, Asian American, Native American CDFIs to grow and prosper and to be strong in our communities. And we're providing technical assistance, we're providing grants, and we're providing peer learning opportunities. And so it's really critical that we grow our Latino-led CDFI industry in California. And so with that, I want to be able to introduce our panelists. There are actually the three panelists you're going to meet today are cohort members of the Resilience Fund. We're really proud to say that. And I want to introduce, you've already heard his name, Rudy Espinosa, the Executive Director of Inclusive Action for the City. Rose Pereira she's the Director of Community Lending at the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation. And Juan Hernandez, the CEO and co-founder of Crecer Capital. Let's see if I can take this microphone with me. Okay, I was really scared I was going to drop it. It's 2, 3. So I said stories are important. So we're actually going to start with stories. I feel like Cristina or something, you know. We're going to start with stories. And I'm hoping that our 3 panelists today, Juan, Rose, and Rudy, can share with you how they came to be working in the CDFI industry and Latino-led CDFIs, what has inspired them, why you're here. So anybody can start.
Paulina, I'm here because when I was a kid, I wanted to get rich.
Honesty.
Well, that was the beginning of my career. My ambitions for my life is I wanted to get rich, and the reason why is because I grew up in a household with a single mom who was a mesera. She was a waitress in a restaurant, and she has a 3rd grade education from Mexico, from Zacatecas. And I saw her work really hard to take care of me and my brother by herself. And my only goal in life, being a first-gen kid going to school, was like I need to make money. And so I studied business with that ambition. And then I was politicized in college. I'm giving you all the cliff notes, but happy to tell you at happy hour, what happened. But I was politicized in school. I took an ethnic studies class, and I had never seen brown people fight for rights like Cesar Chavez and the other leaders that I never learned about. And that really woke me up, literally. And I'm getting chills right now even telling you all about it, because I remember myself in that ethnic studies class. And it was an elective. I was just lucky that I took it. And then I began thinking about that. I don't want to, it's not about money, it's about community. And then I went to grad school to buy time because I didn't want to work for the man with a business degree. And then essentially when I went to grad school, I met a lot of really smart people that sort of illuminated the fact that we need to understand how money works. That people that look like many of us here have 1% of the wealth of our white counterparts. And that's because of systemic and political decisions that have been made over time. And we have to do something about that. And so then I really got on a mission of like, hey, maybe I don't want to make money only for my family. I want us to be I want all of us to be rich. And so that's really the mission. That's kind of my mission statement, is like I want to get capital to people. And so when I see businesses like the dude that's hooked us up with the kombucha, it's amazing. I think I saw him somewhere from Stockton. In my mind, I didn't ask you, but in my mind, I was like, I asked you about your kitchen, but I was thinking, how did he get the money to do this? And how do we get the capital to this man so he can blow this up? And I want to see that Whole Foods. And so that's how I got started in this work. Crazy, right?
Thanks, Rudy.
It's hard to follow that one. That's a good story. So myself, I started out as a child of immigrants. I worked in the fields. It was dirty work. It was horrible. I grew up in the raisin capital of the world. Yay. So I picked grapes for raisins. It was terrible. I was, 5, 6, 7 years old, rolling trays for my parents. So I can honestly say I am a proud Latina now. When I was a kid, it was quite a bit. I felt embarrassed of having to work in the dirt when my friends, during summers were in their air-conditioned homes watching TV, telling their moms, I don't think I'm going to wash the dishes. And I'm out there rolling trays in 105-degree heat. So as I grew up, I remember telling my dad one day, and we were in the field, and I looked at him and I said, Dad, when I grow up, I'm going to work in an air-conditioned building. That's it. That was my dream. And of course, I wanted a nice car and all of those things, but he's reminded me of my comment when I was a little dirty little kid working in the fields. And as I grew up, I felt the need to help others that came from families like mine. So 30 years ago, I started in the banking industry. I've been a 30-year bank manager. It was a great job, great experience. But as we know, Hispanic and our Black families are discriminated often. What I noticed as a lender, even our Hispanic underwriters were discriminating against our own people.
I would look at the applications and go, well, if Mr. Smith's application is just like Mr. Lopez, why did they pick Mr. Lopez apart? And it could be a Hispanic underwriter. Normally it was. And so I just didn't get it. So after 30 years in the banking industry, I started a new job 4 days ago. So I'm filling in for Dora Westerlund today, who's an amazing woman. She's my hero. In 2004, she founded the Hispanic Chamber. And now we are a CDFI as of 2021. So we are a new Latino CDFI. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you. But that's been my journey as a 30-year bank manager. I tried my best to make a difference. And I can honestly say, I feel it's going to start now. I'm not a youngster like some of y'all, but I'm so excited to be here and thank you for being here today.
Congratulations, 4 days in. My story has like three main, like I would say, points of inflection in my life. One is my grandma. Second one is my experience at La Luz Center. And then number three, people that believed in me. Those are the main three reasons how I got into launching Crecer Capital. Number one is my grandma, Grandma Maria. She lived in the second barrio in Houston, Texas, and she made menudo on Sundays, cooked, catered parties, family parties, sewed, and she never had a job. All she did was do business with the community, and she was able to raise 9 kids doing that as an entrepreneur in the second barrio in Houston, Texas. My dad is the 9th kid. My dad decided, my grandma was able to provide for him, and he was able to pick what he wanted to do for his future, and he decided to be a pastor. And so I am the son of a pastor. So all those PK jokes, it's true. It is true. We are pretty bad. So really looking back and acknowledging where I come from my grandma, and understanding that entrepreneurship is a way to move forward. And so that's really was always in back of my mind. The second experience really helped me was my experience at La Luz Center. I had a donor that came one time, we were talking, he was gonna make a $50,000 donation. And he said, what do you wanna put this donation into? And I said, well, I wanna create a program, a lending program. And he says, okay, here's the 50,000, good luck. And so I had $50,000. I had no way of understanding what I was doing. We do the whole community, survey the community, what are the needs, what are the gaps in the community. And our first loan was to seamstress that her machine broke, and we gave her $1,000, and she would pay that loan consistently every month. I had a bag with me, and sometimes she would pay, like right when we were closing, she would run in, and I got my envelope, and sometimes it would be almost like $20 and change, right? $20 and change and $30. And sometimes I would accumulate all that change in my bag that I would go to meetings and the change would fall off. And the people were like, why do you have all this change? Oh, it's because the lady paid me right before I came to this meeting. And so I saw the effects of how capital really affected the community. So that was the second piece that really kind of led me to it. The last piece is people believing in me. I think that the program had grown. I had done about 6 loans myself, kind of getting used to it. I hired a loan officer at La Luz. We grew that portfolio to about 35 loans, and I wanted to expand. And so I went to my board and I said, hey, we have an opportunity to become a CDFI. This is that next step. And so they said, bring a proposal. So I brought a proposal to the board, and the vote was 8-8. 8 yeses and 8 no's. And it was split down the middle. All my viejitos to the left with the no's, and all my more progressive Latinos to the right were yeses, right? And that's when I knew that this was going to work, because the Latinos saw the opportunity. Unfortunately, it was during the pandemic, so we decided kind of not to launch it. Obviously, I'm not going to launch something with 8 no's. from the board. But the first call, I already had people that wanted to support, and one of the LCF connected me with Jenny Flores from Wells Fargo, and the first question she asked me is, "How much do you need to launch this on your own?" And I was like, I got my calculator, the website, lawyer, I said 23,000. I said, "This is how much I need to launch Crystal Capital." She says, "Here's 50." A couple conversations later, same thing with Jacqueline and Masha, here's another 50. Then I was okay, I'm on a roll now, I got 100. JP Morgan came in at 25. United Way of the wine country, the representative here, they came in at 25. And within a week, I had raised almost 170,000. And that's when I knew I was going to leave La Luz and launch Crystal Capital. And that's my story.
Thank you. The three organizations up here are new or emerging, nascent CDFIs, not quite CDFIs yet. I wonder if you could speak to the biggest challenge in becoming a CDFI and growing a CDFI as a Latina-led CDFI industry.
I'll go ahead, I'll start with that. So I'm an emerging CDFI. I am on my third application of becoming a CDFI. I denied, the first time I got denied, second time I got denied, and now I'm going on my third time. But I'm with partnership with CRC, so I hope that we make it this time. The process is very tedious, right? It's not, you just write a grant, an application, and you wait. No, you gotta have your business, or you have to crecer, fully incorporated and have all your I's and your T's crossed. The first time I got denied was my mission statement. I wasn't lending under the mission statement long enough. And that was my mistake. I applied in October of 21, first time. And right when I was going to apply, the consultant that I was working with told me, you might want to, update your mission statement and hone it down just a little bit, because we had it lending and investing to Latino entrepreneurs. She goes, you might want to get it more regional, Sonoma County. I made that change. Unbeknownst to me, that started a new start date of our mission for the organization. And so I was like, so 3 months later, they denied me because I was not within the 6 months that they want. Second time, one of our board members said that they lived and worked in one location, and they did. They lived and worked in one location, but the address of the business was in a different location. So they did not work and live in the same place. So these are like little check boxes that have been very challenging for me, because I'm like ready to go, and you're like, oh, right? So this coming, the September 30th is the deadline. After September 30th, there's going to be a 6-month pause on all CDFI applications because they're rolling out a new application. And so if you guys know my story, it takes me 5-6 times to get something anyways. So this is just part of the normal process.
Thank you. So I started working for Dora Westerland at the Fresno Area Hispanic Foundation on Monday. But I know that they became a CDFI in 2021. And before that, I worked for Self-Help Federal Credit Union for about 7 years. So I'm used to the CDFI world. And I just think that Dora did a wonderful thing by becoming a CDFI when things were shutting down a bit through COVID. And one of the reasons is she's such a connector of people. People go to her all the time. Ayúdame con esto y que el otro. Always help me. And so because she is an amazing connector of people, it made sense for her to become a CDFI. Sadly, I wasn't there through that process, or maybe it's lucky of me that I wasn't there through that process, but now they are a CDFI, and we have so many people coming to us for loans and money. And, the thing I think that scares me sometimes is I hope we don't run out of money, because the loans are needed. And that's where our banking friends can help us. They have CRA that
they need to invest money, and so that's super helpful. That's probably my fear, is hope that that money, the grant money, keeps coming in so we can continue to help people. But that's my experience with the CDFI.
I have so many thoughts. I don't know where to start. I know that there was not a lot of hands raised with the CDFI, so I kind of want to go just do a little quick summary on what a CDFI is. So if I'm a business owner, I go to a bank to get a loan, or I go to a friend and family member. Actually, over 80% of businesses start with friends and family money. But if you're more of a privileged entrepreneur, you might be able to go to Bank of America, Wells Fargo, or Citi and go and apply for a loan. And then the SBA, the Small Business Administration from the federal government, also has a program that is run through these banks. But unfortunately, a lot of people in our communities can't access those loans for whatever reason. The SBA is actually pretty conservative in their program, and banks are conservative in their underwriting. So lending isn't necessarily happening through them. So as Paulina mentioned, there's a really amazing and righteous history in this country of revolutionaries that are thinking about how do we get money to people if the banks are not giving it to them. And so throughout the history of this country, there's been amazing people that have pooled money to get it to people that need it so they could grow their businesses and create jobs and take care of their families. And in the 90s, I think it was Bill Clinton that created the CDFI program. Bill Clinton and a bunch of activists were like, hey, there's all these people throughout the country. We should create a certification to label these lenders that are a little bit alternative. And so that's what a CDFI is. And the way I tell my friends is that if I go to my barber shop, they have a Yelp sticker that says people love us on Yelp. A CDFI has it's basically a sticker on an existing loan fund that says that the government says that they're pretty legit and they're doing things for the community. So that's what a CDFI is. But as we've heard, it's challenging to go through the process to get that sticker. But that's what a CDFI is. And I think that one of the things that's a challenge for us is not only going through the process of getting that sticker and getting that certification, but is making sure that we are staying true to what I believe is the revolutionary spirit of what the CDFI is. Because frankly, I believe that there's now an industry of CDFIs that are not staying true to the fact that we need to fund Black and brown entrepreneurs in this country that can't get capital elsewhere. And we're seeing CDFIs now that they got that sticker because they have a lot of research to get their application in, and they're taking advantage of the program, frankly. And so I think that that's one huge challenge for all of us, not just for Inclusive Action, but is how do we stay true to the work? We are a CDFI. We were certified in 2020 at the top of the pandemic. So when things are shutting down, we got this letter from the federal government that we were certified. We had been lending for a few years at that point. We were doing it basically through our nonprofit organization. But our loan fund came out of the work of a movement of street vendors in Los Angeles that were fighting to legalize street vending in LA. And the vendors were saying, Rudy, literally at City Hall in hearings, if we ever win, who's going to give us money for the carts? We can't afford that. Bank of America isn't going to do it. Much love to the banks here, by the way. but it's very difficult to get capital from these institutions, and they were right. Not even existing CDFIs are going to provide loans to the micro entrepreneurs that I see out on my streets. And so that's why we started to experiment. Maybe we need to start doing this ourselves, which you kind of hear it in the voices of my colleagues here. That's sort of the spirit that we need to continue to maintain in this industry, especially if we're going to hit the ambitious goals that the Latino Community Foundation has set out. We need to make sure we're staying true and we're not getting wooed to conformity, because that's what an industry tends to do.
Thank you to the three of you. So we talked a bit about how hard it is just to get the CDFI certification and the barriers that are there. And you just mentioned the word revolutionary, which got my blood boiling. I'm wondering if the three of you can touch on systems change. What needs to change either in the CDFI industry or what banks can do differently, what corporations can do differently, what philanthropy can do differently to really do what you're talking about, Rudy, that kind of revolutionary CDFI movement?
I want to give you a shout out though, Paulina, and her organization, because if y'all don't know, CRC does amazing work, and I often look to her and her team for the political work and the strategy on making sure that our banking partners are held accountable and doing their part. But you know, systems change requires CDFIs and other organizations to do their part in advocacy. You know, I was talking to Christian about some of the political work that's taking place right now. Our organization is a sponsor of a major bill in California, Senate Bill 972, that is on the governor's desk now, that is seeking to essentially legalize street food vending in California to create a pathway for low-income Black and Brown entrepreneurs that sell on the public right-of-way to get a public health permit. And so there's vendors throughout the state that have worked really hard to get to this place, and we're hoping that Gavin Newsom signs it before the end of the month. But we need this bill to pass. I was showing Christian some photos of vendors sending hundreds of letters to the governor to say, please help us. That's the political change that I think CDFIs need to step in, and unfortunately, I just don't see them doing that. When I ask them for help, dude, that's not really our lane. You know, we're really focused on loans, and that's not what we do. And I think that we're losing the revolutionary spirit. And let me bust out my phone, Paulina. I don't want to take too much time, but on the BART here, on the way over here, we have a WhatsApp channel of street vendors. We have about 40 street vendor leaders that have been informing this policy. And I guess everybody's hyped about Hispanic Heritage Month because I literally have like Central American flags. People are like putting up their emojis and their memes. And then it's mostly in Spanish, so I'm going to read it in Spanish, but I noticed this on the BART. And there was this vendor, a street vendor leader, I won't say her name. She says, hola, mi nombre es. And she says, no quiero ser desalojada. Ayuda, por favor. So everyone's celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month and putting out flags on the WhatsApp. And she's basically saying, I need help. I don't want to be displaced. And then she says, one of the lawyers says, send me information about what's going on. And she says, sí, gracias. Ya tengo mucho tiempo que la doctora me quiere sacar. Quiere que me vaya. No sé cuál es el motivo. Tengo muchos problemas con ella, pero no tengo a dónde ir. Y dice que me va a subir la renta, $250, y ya no se quiere. And she goes on. But basically, this woman is going to be displaced any day from her housing. She's an entrepreneur. And so I think it's really up to lenders and other organizations to say, hey, you know what, that's our client. And that's a housing issue. And we need to make sure that we're standing in solidarity with coalitions to say, hey, you know, we need to make sure that they got housed, they got a roof over their head too. And it was really shocking to see the celebration of vendors saying, oh yeah, I submitted my letter to the governor and, you know, I gave him a call. And then this woman out of nowhere, one of the vendor leaders that I was with in Sacramento recently, she's there advocating for her rights. And then separately, she's worried about whether or not they're going to raise her rent this month because she won't be able to afford it. That's our issue, y'all. And that's a CDFI issue, in my opinion, too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, like Rudy was talking about, is staying authentic to our mission. The banks have rules and regulations that they can't go around. As a 30-year banker, I get it. As a CDFI, I think it's our responsibility to look outside the box. Not every file is perfect. Those most imperfect files become the best files sometimes. And I just want to stay authentic to our CDFI purpose always. You know, as a 30-year banker, like I said, I'm used to getting all this package of paperwork and processing it on through. We have some really cool stories. It was Hmong family. Mom and dad farmed and brought their produce to farmers markets. Tragedy happened. Dad passed away. The son was murdered. A year later, the mom kept working. They would lease 20 acres, and she kept working and going to the farmer's market until she died in the fields. They found her. I think she had a stroke. So the daughter comes to us, never having any experience except for helping her mom and dad here and there, but she was not a business owner. She comes to us and she says, I want to continue the legacy of my family and I don't know what to do. And the well went dry on the property she was leasing. So everything was wrong. Any bank would have said, we're sorry, you know, stay in school, go to college, do something else. We didn't give up on that family. So we helped her. It was $40,000 to get the well going. She had a tractor that was no longer working. We helped her fix that tractor. And so now
She not only subleased some of the 20 acres and created more of an income fund for herself, she paid us off on the $40,000, the money to fix the tractor, and now she's going to buy her own property. So, you know, anybody else would have told her, go run alone. You're not a farmer. Your parents might have been, and we're so sorry for your story. So, as a CDFI, I want to stay authentic to our purpose. Every file is not going to be perfect. It is amazing that we're a CDFI. I'm so happy to be working with one. And myself as an underwriter, I have to look at these folders and believe in them. And it all takes some of the entrepreneurs that come to us believing in themselves. It's almost like they have to sell me on it. And if you sell me on it, I'm pretty easy. So if they sell me on it, I will believe in you, because I think, you know, your attitude and your wanting to work is everything. So to me, I want to stay true to the spirit. The banks can deny someone that we will most likely approve. And I get it that banks have their roles, but I also think we can work together with banks and become partners. If they deny an application, why not send it to me? And when we help families and get their credit looking better, I would love to send them back to the bank, because they can afford to give them a $100,000 line of credit that we can't do. You know, right? It's about that longevity, generational wealth, and I want to be a part of that. And like I said, I'm okay with looking at an imperfect file and making something of it. And there are some that you just have to deny and go back to the basics, whether it's credit help that they need or whatever. But as a CDFI, I want to stay true to the purpose of approving those that most banks would pass on.
I think Rudy's right in terms of sometimes people see the CDFI and they don't understand what a CDFI, and sometimes they confuse us with the social service, right? When we're a financial institution, right? So we're blessed with the sticker that we're a financial institution, but it's like a tug. It's a tug, because a lot of our business owners or people that apply have other challenges, right? Legal challenges, housing challenges, and what's that fine line where you go out of your way to make sure that you also are able to either refer or work with that business owner to supply those other needs. And I think for as we're launching, it's always for us, it's that line. And how do we navigate? So the system change that needs to happen, I think the CDFIs is also understand, like, yes, you're a financial institution, but you got to be able to build those partnerships. If you don't have support housing within your organization capacity, you got to be able to build those relationships with those other housing organizations so you can make that referral, right? And so a lot of times, CDFIs, what I've seen is that they stay in their lane. We just do lending. We don't do anything else. So I think I echo that. The other big one has to do with the Latino community in terms of being debt adverse. Sometimes they don't want to take on debt, right? And so there's three main questions that we always, try to find in the conversation. Is first of all, understand that this is a loan. This is not a grant. Do you understand that this is a loan? Yes. The second question that we ask our entrepreneurs is, how much money do you need to not lose money in a month? And if the business owner is able to articulate that, for us, that's a business plan. We consider that a business plan. And then the third thing that we consider is that we understand that with the Latino community, when they owe money to a person. They don't owe money to an institution. So the relationships that we try to create within the community is very important, because we also understand the Latino community owes money to a person, and that's big.
Thank you. So Rudy, you talked about displacement and told a really powerful story about displacement. And I'm wondering if you could share a bit about the work you're doing with CORE and how that is working to stop gentrification and displacement.
Yeah, so team, we do loans to small businesses because we're a CDFI. So we do loans of up to $35,000. Average loan size is about $10,000. We work with what I call bottom of the pyramid entrepreneurs, street vendors, home-based businesses, brick and mortar businesses that can't get a loan from a bank. So in 2016, 2017, there was a lot of activism in Los Angeles around gentrification. And neighborhoods, I'm sure here in the Bay Area especially, but in major cities throughout the country, gentrification is a big deal. Folks that have more privilege and more wealth are coming into a neighborhood, and that's changing market dynamics and displacing people like the woman that I just shared with you all. And one of the things that we saw, that one of the stakeholders that we saw were being impacted were small business owners. In California, there's no rent control for small businesses. So, and a lot of folks in our communities don't have a long-term lease. They're month to month, right? And so if I go to Rosa, who has a brick and mortar, and she rents one of my spaces, and then I realize that Juan's coming over here, baller from the west side, and he could pay double or triple the rent, I could say, hey, Rosa, you're paying $1,000, but now I want you to pay $3,000 next month, starting next month. And I'm full within my own right as an owner, a landlord, to do that because Juan's going to pay it. What is Rosa going to do? Rosa's going to have to leave. And that's what we were beginning to see. In gentrification waves, small businesses are often the first to be displaced because of the lack of protections, the political challenge. And so we basically started to dream up with some homies in LA, what are we going to do about that? And one of the things that we believe is that if we own land and own property, we will have more agency to control what's taking place. And so we were a small organization. So we basically essentially, again, Cliff Notes, partnered with two other organizations and said, what if we pulled some resources together and start buying some commercial buildings? And so CORE, which stands for Community Owned Real Estate, is a partnership where we've pulled some resources together and bought 5 buildings so far. And the intention is not only to preserve those spaces, and we signed everybody up for long-term leases right away, said this is what your rent's going to be, but over time, we want to transition ownership to those tenants. That's going to be that's really the goal there. It's like a Patagonia thing, you know? And so, so that's really key, but I'm really excited personally because I think that that's really the next phase of our organization is we are going to always do the bread and butter loans to our people, but we also want to make sure that we're controlling another form of capital, which is real estate. We need to have a response to BlackRock. BlackRock is coming into our communities throughout our country and buying up land. What is our response to that? We need to step up and get in the ring and try to figure out what we're going to do. And I think it has to start on this side.
Rose and Juan, I wonder if you could speak to what are the issues? So you heard Rudy talk about displacement and gentrification and the ownership of real estate. I wonder if you could speak to some of the really prevalent, relevant issues in your communities and how being a CDFI helps you tackle some of those.
Yeah, and Rudy's right. That's still happening every day. I myself had partnered with Central California Legal Services, and they explained to me that for under $800, families are kicked out of their homes. That's the average that they owe, that they're behind. $800 does not seem like a lot to most of us. You would think you could come up with that, but it's really hard for some of these families. So there's so many challenges. Fresno is the food basket of the nation. We create most of the produce that are in the stores, but we also have a lot of people going hungry. I'm also on the board of directors of the Central California Food Bank for 12 years now, and the hunger issues in Fresno are sad. It's really sad that we have that. So I think a lot of people, forget about those families that go without food. But as far as the CDFI, what we have done, I've gone out into the fields and presented to field workers to help them protect their rights so that they know we are there for them. As a CDFI, outreach is key. It's super important. Clarissa, who's here, worked at the Mexican consulate. That's where we met. And I used to grab my tablecloth and set up a table at the Mexican consulate twice a week. My best clients came from there. clients that paid. I-10 lending is amazing. My I-10 borrowers 100% of the time pay better than my Social Security borrowers all day long, every day. They're not any, to me, it's not a risky loan to make when you loan to an immigrant family with an I-10. We would go out in the fields and present to field workers with their boss's permission, of course. So a lot of the challenges is just getting the word out to these people that we are trying to help, because some of them don't go home and comfortably watch TV. They get home, they eat, they shower, they get up and do it the next day. We're lucky if they get to watch the evening news. So I think it's getting that word out there that we are here to help them. Because as in this room, some people don't know what a CDFI is. I found out 7.5 years ago, but it's because I worked for one. So how do we let these immigrant families or low-income families or Black and brown families know what that means? And I think we're all responsible for that, is to let them know that there is assistance, that there is help. And if they want to create a business and they have a great business idea or have already been in that business, to please come to us. So I think it's, spreading the word about what a CDFI is and what we can do for them.
In Sonoma County, currently Latinos are 1 in every 3 people in Sonoma County. We're projected to be 2 of every 3 people in Sonoma County by the year 2050. Right now, Latinos have 1/8 of the wealth of white people in Sonoma County. If we're going to be 2/3 in the next coming years, are we also going to have still 1/8 of the wealth? Yet we're going to be 2/3 of the population. That's that nut that we're trying to crack, right? We're part of, we feel, as Chris said, we're part of an ecosystem that is trying to push and try to close that wealth gap. Crecer Capital is a wealth gap tool in Sonoma County. And so we don't lose sight of that. That's what we're always aiming for. And that's what we do in Sonoma County.
Thank you. I wonder if I want to open it up for questions from all of you, give you an opportunity to have a conversation with our panelists. And so, Vero, do you want to take?
Yeah, I might be another one. Oh, yeah.
Okay, before we get off to questions, let's give them another round of applause. And I know there must be questions. We intentionally, yes, I see your hand already. Whoop, whoop. We intentionally put different sectors in this room: entrepreneurs, community partners, philanthropy, VCs. So this is an opportunity to really ask those questions from the angle and the perspective that you bring into the room. I'm going to go with our first question. There you go. If you could tell us your name and who you're with.
Okay. Hi, my name is Claudia Rivas. I work with Merrill Lynch Bank of America. And my question was, if any of you can give me information on what percent of the loans that you're giving out are maybe to undocumented people versus documented people. And also for those who are documented, does that data get reported to the credit bureaus? Thank you.
So I can answer that for us. If you have an I-10 number, we can lend to you. So most people who have an I-10 may be undocumented, right? So the answer is yes, we do fund undocumented people. And what was the other question? So when we lend money, we don't lend, it's not a personal loan. So the person has to have a business entity. So when we lend to the business. And so that gets reported to the credit bureau. Not as an individual right now.
And I can answer that question also. So doing personal loans or car loans,
The ITIN number is considered as a taxpayer ID only. With that said, though, we do report it, and what I have found is it's really up to Experian or TransUnion how they're going to treat that file. So I have people coming to me that I made a loan 5 years ago, and there's nothing on that file. I don't see a credit history with us. However, I'll have another person with an I-10 come through the door, and their history shows up. So it's really up to the credit bureaus because an I-10 is really only for tax reporting. I think that's unfortunate because my I-10 borrowers pay amazingly well, like I had stated before. So that's a great question. And so normally when I help a borrower with an I-10, I tell them I can't guarantee we are reporting it, but I don't know that Experian or TransUnion is going to put it on the credit. I hope that answers that question because that.
So our lovely assistant Laura is making her way.
Hello, it's Miguel Velasco, entrepreneur. I just want to make a comment. I think it's non-recourse loan, right? Juan? Those are non-recourse loans.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Some people may wonder. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ay, ay, ay. My voice, I don't need a mic. Well, I'm Claudia from Prospera, and I'm so happy, and you made me cry. And I didn't think that I would cry when we talk about CDFIs. And that's something that we need to break. Like talking about money should be connected to your heart. So thank you, first of all, for your stories, because that really is what we need. Prospera is a nonprofit. We incubate with heart. That means that we go beyond the business. We see the women. We work with Latina women. So my question is right now, we are incubating businesses who believe in cooperation, and that's like, it's going against the current. It's going being a salmon because we are doing the stuff that it's not about individuals, it's how we can create power, collective power. So we've been evaluating how can we become a CDFI or not, and that's what we've been dancing and evaluating. Should we or not? So I want to check, what is your advice for a nonprofit? If we are evaluating, if we should maybe like creating a partnership with one of you, or if it's better because we are dancing with the women in the dance floor, it's better we just become a CDFI. So we are right now evaluating, and I would like to hear from you. What is your advice?
I think that it's always good to not reinvent the wheel. So if there's a CDFI in your community you trust and have a good relationship with you have a good relationship with them, then that might be a good opportunity. Maybe they could even create a loan fund for you, especially for your clients. So I think that that's where I would begin, is to do a little bit of a landscape analysis. With what we did when the vendors were telling me that nobody was going to lend to them, I was like, I don't know if that, let me look at that. I was like, oh, damn, they're right. So I would start there. The second thing is if no one else is doing what you want to do, then yes, you got to create it yourself. And I think that what I would do is I would find a consultant, somebody really smart that that was maybe a little bit ahead of the game, or maybe has done it before. When we started our loan fund, we found some banker who works at another bank now, and that dude was like, I've done that before, and I was like, hey, you want to help us do this? And we basically laid out the vision of what we wanted. We wanted to do microloans for street vendors that were undocumented, and the interest rates had to beat everybody else, which he was like, how can you do that? I was like, don't worry, I just need you to do the loan policies and tell me how to do this work. And so we hired him to help design that for us. And so we learned through him. For the CDFI certification, we also hired another consultant that was like, hey, can you help us through the application process? You've done this before, help us get through this process. But by that point, you have to have already done lending. You have to have a few years under your belt doing that to prove that you could get that sticker.
Good afternoon. Hi, my name's Al Lerma. I'm on the board of Crescent Capital with Juan Hernandez. So, and I know a little bit about micro lending. I used to run the San Francisco Small Business Lending Program for 10 years back in the day. Can you guys talk about technical assistance? Because I think that's a whole nother side of this industry. I know you're the lenders up there and you also do technical assistance, but I know it's important for people to know, like the person that just spoke about small business development centers and all the other support systems, I guess, that are out there that really prepare a lot of these entrepreneurs to be loan ready when they walk in the door.
Yeah, that's a really amazing question, sir. Thank you for asking that. So my colleague, our director of lending, Maribel, often says she says we are a technical assistance provider that happens to give out loans. And for folks that are not familiar with the lingo, technical assistance is essentially like business coaching or case management or support. So for us, that's what makes our loan fund work, is that we are working with folks that need a lot of support. The average pre-loan coaching that we offer is about 10, 11 hours that we spend with someone to go through the process. Oftentimes they come to us, they don't have financial statements, maybe they didn't do their taxes, maybe they are undocumented, maybe they don't have an ITIN, which is an individual tax identification number, which is another form of a social security, or it has the same amount of numbers that a social security number has. And so that is so critical. So I think it was Claudia in the back. I would really, really encourage, based on what I understand of your organization, that if you're going to do a loan fund, you have to consider how you're going to design the wraparound coaching that your clients may need. Otherwise, it's going to be a transactional lending institution that's like everybody else, and that's not really fun.
And if I can add to that, some of the technical assistance we offer is everything from having a paralegal that we really trust, because there's permits, titles, the food truck titles. I just had a question. A gentleman was going out of state for 3 months and he was going to let his compadre use the food trucks. Well, somebody said, you need to get it in writing and, write up something, because you never know, friends today, not tomorrow. But so a lot of technical assistance. And also right now we're having a Shark Tank style $100,000 giveaway, and we're helping these entrepreneurs create videos of their business. So they're selling their business to us and we're looking for funding. We're letting people invest $5,000 and above, those that are investors and want to put some money. It's better than playing the stock market. At least, if you believe in the product that these folks have, it could do very well. And I'll never forget that the Shark Tank people passed on the Ring doorbell. Do you guys remember that? So here we have these entrepreneurs and we're helping them create videos. We help them with legal assistance and all sorts of things. And like he said, there's so much behind that. We spend so many hours on technical assistance. Honestly, the underwriting part is not as hard as all the other and just getting them there.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Clarissa Vivian Petrucci with Central Valley Immigrant Integration Collaborative, Civic. And my question is for Rudy. Rudy, you talked about advocacy. And it's very interesting because that is something that we also do. But my question is, if this bill is passed, how are you guys planning to implement it in your county? Because let's remember that in 2018, AB 626 was passed, where entrepreneurs can cook from their house up to 50 hot meals. However, I was looking for the rules for our counties in the Central Valley. None of our counties in the Central Valley have the rules, so they cannot issue those licenses. We do have the cottage license, and I found that in California there were just 3 or 4 counties. Alameda County was one of the counties that have already implemented. So how are you planning to implement that? And maybe let's connect and see how we can collaborate and move these legislations also to push the counties to implement this and help families to strive and start their businesses.
Where's this recording going to go? No, but are we gonna like publicize it? I'm like, I want to answer. Well, I think that, let me figure out how to diplomatically tell you. So AB 626 is a very important law that passed that gives an opportunity for entrepreneurs to use their home to prepare food and to sell it. But there's limitations. And when that legislation was going forward, there was so much opposition from health departments and from various other folks, other brick and mortar businesses that didn't like this. And so they made it into an opt-in policy where only a county has to say, I want to participate. And if they don't say that, they can't participate. So in LA, also, we don't have that. And so I think that that's a reminder to all of us that when these legislations are on the table, we need to step up. We need to step up to the plate because there's people that are trying to make it, that are trying to reduce the impact. And there's the same thing that happened with Senate Bill 972. We got out of it in a decent way, but there was people at every turn that were trying to make it less powerful. As far as implementation, at least on Senate Bill 972, which is essentially is creating a new chapter in the California Retail Food Code for street food vendors, which didn't exist before. I literally in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Tahoe with the health department leaders to start building relationships on how to implement that. And I'm telling you right now, the call that I had a couple of days ago, they don't want to implement it. And so we have to fight, we have to advocate, and the struggle continues, real talk. And so we need your help to pass this law, but we also need your help after the law passes to make sure that our local authorities are doing what they need to do. And I definitely want to connect to collaborate.
Hi, my name is Kim Carter. Hi, my name is Kim Carter, and I'm here with my boss, Vanessa Perez, and we're excited to be here today. And I was listening to Juan, and he says this is his third application. I'm like, see, say pretty, way to go, Juan. You just keep on going. You're gonna get that CDFI. So what I was thinking when I was hearing you guys talk was the regulatory process is like, tell me, once you have a CDFI, are you held by, FDIC? Like what other systems do you have to engage in to be a lender, number one, and the two, what are the like insurances, or how'd you get your first pot of money to even be able to lend somebody, and who's regulating that, if you don't mind?
Well, I know. Well, with us, we got a small grant, kind of similar to Juan's story. It was like 50 G's, and we're like, let's experiment with this. We got some lawyers to help us. You always got to have a lawyer, and the lawyer was like, you could totally lend up to a certain amount. I think it was up to 30 loans with the 501c3 status. You go 35. You go beyond 35 loans, that you need to get a license. So in the state of California, you need to get a lender's license, which we got. And then we started to do this stuff, and then we applied for CDFI certification to get that sticker that I call it the sticker. And so it's actually decent. We got to report to them every year, to the folks in Washington, D.C., to confirm that we're lending to the people that we say that we're lending to. And then the cool thing about the sticker is that what it does is it opens the doors to get money from the Treasury to invest in the loan fund. That's like the value of getting that sticker. And then honestly, banks treat you differently. Because the banks, before the CDFI certification, they were like, yeah, no, talk to me when you get the sticker. Now that we got the sticker, people are like, oh, damn, let's talk. And the reason why is because the banks get extra credit if they donate to you from the federal government. I'm talking generally, y'all, but you get it, right?
So yes, so the first thing is definitely you want to have we called it a pilot program. So you say we want to do probably like 5 loans and go through the process, right? Sit down with the person, make sure you do the underwriting, and then you analyze, okay, how did these 5 loans do? And then from there, you go to a funder and you say, hey, I've done 5 loans already. I need some more money to continue doing loans and to build out our program. And a lot of times, like we were saying, some of the banks won't give you money because you're not a CDFI. But there's some key people in here that believe in special interest. We're talking about Wells Fargo. Where's Wells Fargo? Right here. Yes. JP Morgan. Vera Moore was there. And so there's some people that have that understanding. And I'm gonna say something that on a real talk, like we were saying, I got funding from people that had program officers of people of color. It was the people that had people of color that was engaging with me. Those were the ones that released funds, and all the ones that were not people of color gave me a lot of roadblocks, a lot of procedures. That's not how we do things. And so I just want to put that out there. If you see a Latino, Latina, African American, talk to them first.
Bring them some empanadas.
Wells Fargo, and not just because you're here, but we have a grant through them. It's $75,000, and it's to help Native American Indians. We also have other grants through other banks, and normally the grants are specific. They want you to help a group that is underserved, Black and Brown families, and so there's a lot of reporting. When you become a CDFI, if you receive a grant from, for example, from a bank, you have to report the demographics information because you can't just, give it out to anybody. Sometimes there's specifications, and some grants don't have any specifications. But we know we're there to help the underserved. If you could go to a Wells Fargo, a Chase to get your loan, you're probably going to go to them first. We do a lot of second chance financing, a lot of those entrepreneurs that would not get approved anywhere else. So there's a lot of reporting behind it once you get your CDFI.
I just want to add because it sounds like you're leading an organization. So if I were on your team, I would consider when you're applying or asking someone for support, like the Wells Fargo team over here, hey, we have this idea. And maybe you focus on, hey, we want to do business coaching for entrepreneurs, but then you build in a line item for the capital that you're going to need to actually lend to them. And it's grant money, so you don't have to pay it back. So if you lose it, you lose it, But as you grow, then you can start having conversations with people that would lend you the money. So a lot of the resources that we have to lend to businesses, they're essentially loans to us. So my work is about, hey, Wells Fargo, can you give me a 2% loan? Because I want to give this person a 4% loan. And so it's kind of the money circulating through us. But in the beginning, we basically got grant money, talked to our funders and said, hey, can we use a little piece of this and actually use it as a loan to try? And then that's how we started.
Okay, so this is powerful. This is, yes, we're gonna do 5 more minutes of round of questions. My only ask to the panel is if one person can answer it. That way we can get through as many questions as we can. And I have Martin here.
Hey, how's it going? I'm Martin Encinas Leon. And this question is for Rudy. You said something very interesting, how you and a group of friends, you guys are coming together to buy real estate. I'm also very fascinated by that idea and have proposed it in different capacities. But I guess, what is the vision where, hey, let's buy this commercial property, and how is it going to get passed down to your tenants? Would you guys be financing it back to them, or?
That's a good question, dude. That's literally what's going to happen next year. We got to figure it out. I don't know. We have a lot of different things on the table. We're thinking about, if there's a tenant that wants to buy it from us, how are they going to get the loan? It's the same challenge. Other CDFIs are not going to, the ones that do real estate loans, they're not going to lend to the folks. So we're thinking, man, maybe we need to step up again and do our own loan fund. So that might happen. But the way that it's structured, and this is where lawyers are really key. So find your pro bono lawyer in your community. We created an LLC that owns the buildings. And then there's 3 partners. It's the 3 organizations that are the members of the LLC. So one idea that we have, just to give you a little flavor, is that when we transition ownership, we start bringing those tenants into the LLC as members. And then some of us step out. But the LLC is kind of like the mothership that owns the properties. And then you could create a lot of LLCs, just like the 1% do. There's like LLCs everywhere,
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I am loving this. This is great information. I'm totally new to all of this. I'm coming in totally green. So your question was awesome to help with a little bit of background. My question is, I'm sorry. I'm Gina Miranda, and I do corporate diversity and inclusion work and social impact work. don't do anything with entrepreneurs at all. So excuse me if it sounds too green. How does a corporation get involved, like LinkedIn, get involved to help you? That's one question. Second question is, how can I get involved to help you as an investor? I don't know.
I want to answer that.
Pass me off.
Well, of course, make contact with us, and we have so many programs going on all the time. LinkedIn can definitely help. They're already helping us today, though, right, by having us here. But yeah, make contact. Where do you live? Are you near here?
San Mateo.
San Mateo. There's CDFIs everywhere. So if I was you, I would look for a CDFI that's close to you. If not, we are happy to have you come on board, and I'm sure we can figure out a way to partner. I was talking to Clarissa earlier and other people, and there's always ways to partner, whether if you're a coach, if you know how to give somebody life skills or tax return help, whatever, there's always a way to partner with a CDFI. So many ways. So
what about investor? Investor.
I'm trying to answer that because part of the reason we put this event together and all of you were invited from all different sectors is to make this type of connection, but to do them at scale, right? Like the Rudies and the Doras and the Juans, and this is what CRC is all about too, advocating at that level. The entrepreneurship fund that we mentioned, we've seeded all these with grants. And like Juan said, we went to Jenny and said, Jenny, you have to meet this fund, right? So we put the money right back out, but we do it in a way where it accelerates the process, right? That's number one. So the corporate side, we want to make this easy for you because the dreamers and the builders are already doing the work. So let's just pass the money and release and liberate that capital so we can keep doing. Number two, on a very personal level, we know that there are so many people who are trying to figure out how can I be a part of this and amplify it, right? Multiply it. That's what the Giving Circle Entrepreneurship Fund is all about, the one that I announced, right? So our Giving Circle, which started with 14 women in San Francisco, has now over 500 members who've been a part of it. We invested over $2.5 million. That money went to Dora when she had an idea and there was no licensing and nobody was really listening to what she was doing, right? So we invite people both at the individual level, corporate level, and institutional level to work with us because we want, there are more folks who could be on this stage right now doing this work. And we don't have time to just do it like one step at a time. We need to accelerate progress and make it done. And Rudy, I'm looking at you because I feel like you're full of ideas on this topic. We'd love for you to just chime in on it.
I mean, I want, earlier I said that 80% of businesses start with friends and family money. And that's because they have friends and family that could do that, but some of us do not. And so I think one of the big challenges for folks is like we just need to start building networks and friends in other communities. And that's like that's not really that smart, but that's like a need. Is that honestly I only know my network, and how do we get beyond to tap the wealth? At least in Los Angeles, where I am, there's a ton of money. But somehow they don't even know we exist. They don't even know that they could play a really pivotal role in helping us do the revolutionary BlackRock. They could connect us to resources. They could connect to you. And I think that a lot of folks don't know that we're here.
And the forward bias model, it's working. Someone mentioned earlier, like giving circles are really like dandas, right? Like we just say, okay, $1,000 can get me here, but $20,000 with 20 people can get 4 people doing this work. So that is, in fact, when we talk about building in the philanthropy model based on who we are as a people, we come together to support the Rudies, right? So why not continue to use that? That's worked so well in our community to back this whole model up.
I think that's the high note. This has been powerful. Again, this is just scratching the surface. And it's what we do at the Latino Community Foundation, bringing people together, bringing in information and building power. So let's go ahead and give the panel and our moderator. Each of you brings so much power and influence, as well as your personal stories. Thank you for being vulnerable and being real with us, because that's what this change needs. We're gonna go ahead and transition. Our next part is really the fulfillment of the heart. You're going to hear from some inspiring entrepreneurs. This is like key and gold and nuggets. And right after, we're going to be having some wine, some more agua bonita, some more kombucha. I do want to acknowledge Monica Lopez, if you're still here. Can you say hi to the group? So Monica, you can read her story in one of the storyboards, but we went to her and we said, hey, we're having this event that features Latina entrepreneurs. We need your wine there. So thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting.
All right, the moment you all have been waiting for. My name is Anaisa Maya. I'm the co-director of the Latino Giving Circle Network. Thank you. And it is my pleasure to take part in this next section because I feel truly passionate about it. But before we get started, I want to get to know who is in our audience. So also we've been sitting down for a while, so maybe it's good if we get up and maybe like move a little. So I invite you all to please get up, do a little stretch. It's been a long day. Yes. Oh, and the people online too, wherever they are. I don't know where they are. Somewhere there. All right, so we're going to do a little exercise. We're going to keep moving, but I invite you all to take a seat again. We're going to get up again. But one second, there's 3 questions I have. I want the people who have worked or supported a Latino family-owned business to please stand up. And if you're already standing, maybe raise your hand. Wow. Okay. All right. You can take a seat. What about those people who have a family member who has a business ranging from maybe selling tamales or recording a mixtape and selling it on the street, having a barber shop or having a product in a store, something like that. Okay. All right. And last one. How many of you are entrepreneurs? Can we give a round of applause for everybody? Okay, as you can see, most of us in this room have been impacted in one way or another by the power and the nature of Latinos as entrepreneurs. And I want you all to take a look real quick at the 3 entrepreneurs who are going to be speaking today. You have Kayla, you have Gabriela and Anais who are going to be sharing their experiences. These women have gone through a lot, and it's sometimes against all odds, to fight for their dreams and to take an opportunity to do what they love. And this isn't always easy. I'll speak for myself. I started the entrepreneur journey 4 years ago. I had a great idea. I was very passionate about it. And then when I went to go do my taxes, the lady that was going to help me said I was a mess. And she scolded me because she said that I wasn't prepared or ready to be an entrepreneur. She knew nothing about me. She had known me for approximately 10 minutes. And for her advice was close up shop. People tend to think that starting a business is easy and it's not. I don't know why people think that. And you are one of those people. Instead of guiding me, maybe sharing resources, her only advice was to give up. And unfortunately, this is nothing new in our communities. We're constantly bombarded with the narrative that we can't do it, that there's something wrong, but our people cannot do it. Yet nobody shares the stories of our aunts, our tias who wake up at 4 in the morning to make burritos to sell them outside the Walmart, and about her customers loving her food so much that they show up every day before she shows up to start a line so that they make sure they catch a burrito before they're all sold out. Or our cousin who taught himself digital design and now designs these awesome shirts, and every time he has a pop-up, he sells out. We don't hear about those stories. But today, we're gonna change things up, and we are gonna hear about them. So we're gonna hear from these three amazing women, and it is my honor to introduce to you all Kayla Castañeda, Anaí Rojas, and Gabriela Zamudio. Kayla, we talked a little bit about some of the issues around financing a business. Why don't you tell us what you've gone through and what you've experienced?
Yes. Oh. Can everyone hear me now? Yes. Great. So I think for myself, and this is such a fitting place to be talking about this, because the two largest barriers to really getting my business to take off were capital and having the right network. Rudy talked about it a little bit earlier when he mentioned like, oh, I would love to see this kombucha. Like, how does Martin get the money to make this blow up, right? For reference, it takes almost $500,000 to make a product successfully launch in a place like Whole Foods. And so even if you are like very uniquely positioned to run your business, how do you get the cash and the network to make that happen, right? Like before you can even get the cash to launch in Whole Foods, how do you figure out who at Whole Foods can make the decision to bring your product in? So those two things were a huge barrier for me. And my path was really forged at first by angels. Actually, some angels that are in this room, I seen her earlier, Claudia Rivas. She sent an email that changed my life because that one introduction managed to expand my network in a way that led us to one of our major investors who was able to give us the capital to exponentially grow our business. And so this past year, I was able to make it on the Forbes list as the first Latina-led company in my industry to raise more than $1 million. Thank you. Thank you. And because of that capital, you'll also see our product in Whole Foods and Target and 7-Eleven this spring. Thank you. But it's been because other people have put their money where their mouth and their heart is, and then have gone on to utilize their networks to go bat for us. So I think those have been two of the biggest barriers for us. But we're working on it, and add us on LinkedIn. Keep the network going.
And afterwards, we are going to have their contact information in case any of you would like to connect with them. And now I'm going to switch over to Spanish. Anaí Rojas, una mujer increíble que he aprendido tanto de ella. ¿Por qué no nos cuentas más sobre tu compañía, cómo llegaste a este país y las barreras que a veces tienes que pasar como inmigrante?
Ok, ay, me oí muy bonito. Bueno, pues soy Anaí Rojas, soy mexicana. ¿Y cómo llegué a este país? Yo estaba estudiando Derecho en México y la verdad estaba en una buena posición, escuela particular y todo, pero hubo un momento donde mi papá se tuvo que sentar conmigo y me dijo, Anaí, tú hablas bien bonito, pero yo no sé hasta dónde vamos, qué tanto vas a hacer. Y ya no puedo seguir pagando una escuela particular. ¿Por qué no te metes mejor a la escuela pública, a la universidad pública, que es para contabilidad? Yo quería estudiar Derecho. Y yo le dije, no, o sea, yo quiero estudiar Derecho, yo quiero hacer algo que me apasione, pero ya no podía pagarse en mi casa. Así que la niña independiente dijo, pues me voy al norte a barrer dólares. Y Y fue algo frustrante porque llegué aquí y resulta que no se barren los dólares. Resultaba que tenía que barrer, al contrario, en restaurantes. Empecé a trabajar en restaurantes, me trataban mal, me hacían menos. No podía trabajar en restaurantes donde dan buena propina porque obviamente yo no sabía inglés. Entonces, trabajar en restaurantes latinos ya era un poco difícil, ¿verdad? Porque no estamos acostumbrados a no estaba acostumbrada a estar en una carrera de derecho, a venir a lavar trastes, a que me trajeran de allá para acá, a estar recogiendo cervezas, a estar esperando a que me acosen y cosas así. Entonces yo dije, wow, yo no quiero seguir aquí más. ¿Qué hago? ¿A dónde voy? O sea, y luego para lo que ganaba muy poquito, creo que empecé ganando $9 la hora. Entonces, y las propinas no eran muchas. Entonces, para no hacerla larga, me dijeron, ¿sabes qué? Si la quieres hacer en Estados Unidos, tienes que empezar a limpiar casas, porque para las mujeres que quieren ganar bien aquí en Estados Unidos, que son latinas, limpian casas, y los hombres pues se van a la construcción. Entonces, yo me fui a limpiar casas en una compañía que tuve la oportunidad y el gran privilegio y suerte de que era una cooperativa fundada por Prospera. Y ahí fue donde yo dije, esto es lo que yo quiero desarrollarme, yo quiero crecer, yo quiero saber sobre finanzas, yo quiero que esta cooperativa crezca, que vaya más allá. Y para no hacerla larga, pasé 5 años en esa cooperativa, fui a otras cooperativas que fueron alrededor del área de la bahía, y luego llegó el momento en el que dije, quiero lanzar mi propio emprendimiento. Mi gran sueño siempre ha sido ser speaker, y aunque estoy nerviosa ahorita, todavía estoy practicando para eso. Entonces yo dije, sí, yo quiero aprender, yo quiero lanzar un negocio y quiero ayudar a las demás personas a lanzar un negocio. Y lancé mi negocio. Es una compañía de limpieza de casas, se llama Professional Eco Cleaning. Es una compañía ecológica. Y es una compañía ecológica porque me tocó también limpiar casas con señoras que limpian casas por su cuenta. Y cuando tú vas y limpias productos que no son ecológicos, o sea, tú a lo mejor limpias tu casa y le echas poquito cloro y te queda blanquita, te queda bonita y brillante y todo, ¿verdad? Pero para la persona que está limpiando casas, limpia 4 casas, 5, 6 casas al día con cloro, y se está destrozando en realidad su salud. Entonces yo dije, yo no quiero hacer eso ni para mí, ni para mis compañeras, para mis socias, ni para mis empleadas. Yo quiero que nosotras empezamos a tener una vida diferente. Es por eso que mi compañía es ecológica y la inicié con muchas ganas. Tengo el privilegio de conocer a Prospera y es por eso que yo he tenido acceso a muchas cosas, pero me he dado cuenta en el transcurso del tiempo en que lo que yo he tenido acceso no ha sido suficiente y no es el mismo acceso que tienen las demás personas. A pesar de que yo tengo un privilegio de conocer una organización que me contacta con cosas, la mayoría de emprendedores latinos no tienen ese privilegio. Y también ahorita que escuchaba a los bancos, a los CDFI y todo, o sea, decían, necesitamos un business plan. Y también me tocó cuando vino la pandemia, pedí muchos préstamos y me decían, necesitamos un business plan, necesitamos esto, y yo lo tenía. Pero desafortunadamente hay muchos emprendedores latinos que no sabemos el idioma, no sabemos cómo se mueve el sistema, y empezamos a emprender negocios vendiendo tamales, empezamos a vender negocios limpiando casas por nuestra cuenta, pero nunca, o sea, lo empezamos, es un negocio exitoso, nos mantiene a nuestra familia, pero realmente no hacemos un business plan, lo hacemos de corazón, lo hacemos porque lo necesitamos, porque eso es lo que nos va a ayudar a sobrevivir, ¿verdad? Entonces, sinceramente en este camino de emprendimiento para mí ha sido tan importante el poder reconocer el que necesitamos llegar más allá. No solamente a la emprendedora que, por ejemplo, yo no soy bilingüe, pero Google Translate es mi mejor socio. Entonces yo les contesto los correos, yo me muevo, yo esto, pero no todas las personas somos así. Entonces, ¿cómo podemos llegar a esos emprendedores que están partiéndose la espalda, partiéndose la espalda todos los días para salir adelante, para sacar su negocio, pero no pueden crecerlo porque no tienen acceso a todos los recursos que hay? Yo jamás sabía, hasta ayer me enteré de lo que era un CDFI y se supone que soy alguien privilegiada que está dentro de una organización. Entonces, el camino del emprendimiento es hard y estoy orgullosa de estar donde estoy, creo en mí. Ahora mi papá sí me ha dicho, wow, sí has hecho, porque en este momento ya eres consultora, eres tallerista, eres Program Manager en Prospera y tengo mi propio negocio. Sin embargo, gracias, pero sin embargo, tengo que tener todos estos sombreros porque mi negocio todavía no se mantiene solo. Yo tuve que salir del negocio y buscar un trabajo para que el negocio pudiera seguir a flote con la pandemia. Yo tuve que seguir, ahora sí que salir por completo y estarme partiendo, levantándome a 5 de la mañana, trabajando hasta 9 de la noche para que mi negocio salga más adelante y con la idea de que algún día el negocio me pague lo que yo quisiera ganar o lo que me pagan en un trabajo. En este momento mi negocio somos 11 personas, hay 11 familias que se benefician del negocio. Sin embargo, estamos en el punto de crecimiento. Yo ya no tengo espacio para otro servicio de limpieza hasta el miércoles de la semana que entra, pero no puedo crecer porque no tenemos el suficiente dinero. Ustedes saben, ahorita hay recesión de empleados, no todo el mundo quiere trabajar porque ya quieren salarios grandes. ¿Y cómo no? ¿Verdad? Si todo está subiendo. Entonces, ¿cómo yo le puedo dar unos salarios justos a mis empleadas? Y si al mismo tiempo los clientes tampoco me quieren pagar porque pues ahí, ¿cómo te voy a pagar $40 la hora por limpiar mi casa? ¿Verdad? Entonces estoy justo en ese momento donde digo yo, híjole, o sea, quiero crecer, pero no puedo porque quisiera darle beneficios a mis empleadas, quisiera darles salarios justos, pero al mismo tiempo no hay suficiente dinero que entre para poder crecer. Entonces, me siento como una ratita dando vueltas, pero me agrada mucho estar aquí gracias a Latino Community Foundation porque me da esperanza, ¿verdad? De que podemos empezar ese plan de cómo llegar a otros emprendedores latinos que no tienen el privilegio de estar aquí y cómo nosotros que ya estamos en el punto de crecer podemos encontrar un CDFI que nos preste y que nos diga, mira, yo creo en ti.
I think they gave me this to do a mic drop. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Okay, so Miss Anaí said when she got to this country, she was studying law in Mexico, and it was a great opportunity. But there came a point when her family said, Anaí, you still have a long ways to go. The funding isn't there. So they said, why don't you find something else to do? And so they said, why don't you go do accounting, maybe accounting instead of law? And she's like, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do something that I am passionate about. So she looked at the best thing as an independent young lady, and she said, I'm going to go to the US to sweep dollars. And so she came over, she took a flight and came to the US. And while being here, she saw that you don't sweep dollars, that she had to go and work and sweep the restaurants and be working in places where she wasn't treated very well. So she was working in restaurants where, you know, she was getting tips, but the wages weren't very good. And it was difficult because we're not used to being in situations where we're having to go here, go there, wash dishes, and just picking up beers and doing everything that needs to do, putting up with abuse. So it was difficult being here. And I said, where do I go from here? And so she was, you know, earning low wages. And so to not drag the story, she said, you know what? Life here in the US is difficult. So she started cleaning houses because for Latino women, they said, you know what, this is something that you can do. And so she started cleaning homes, and she had the opportunity and the great privilege of entering a cooperative and also having a great relationship with Prospera. And so she said, I want to develop myself. I want to know about finances. I want to make sure that this business grows. And so she spent 5 years in the cooperative. She went and visited other cooperatives as well. And a moment came when she said, I want to launch my own business.
And she's always had the dream of also being a public speaker. And even though she was a little nervous, according to her, she didn't say that, but she said, I want to learn, I want to launch my business, and I want to help others to also be able to launch their business. And so she started professional eco cleaning, which is an ecological cleaning business, because she had also been cleaning homes with other women who were cleaning homes on their own account. And when you go to clean houses, can you imagine with unecological products like Clorox having to use it 2-3 times a day? And honestly, it causes a lot of damages to the person who is cleaning because they do clean about 4 or 5 houses a day. So it makes it difficult because that's destroying their health. So I said, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that to myself, nor to my colleagues, my associates, my employees. I want, so when we started, I said, I want us to do it different. So my company is ecological, and I was very lucky to know Prospera, and this is why I can say that this is something that I've been very appreciative, and throughout the time, I have to say that even though I'm very privileged to have access to them and other businesses, this isn't enough. And even though I'm being contacted, I have contacts with other businesses, but the reality is that many entrepreneurs don't have the same privilege. And right now, we hear the banks, we hear about CDFIs, and how do we get this information out? We know that many need this type of grant, this type of funding, and many needed it, I need it, but many entrepreneurs, because we lack the language, we lack knowing the system. We start businesses like, selling tamales or cleaning houses because we need to, but we just start the businesses because we're like, okay, we're going to start a business, we're doing well, it's going to help sustain our families. But in reality, we don't do it with that preparation. We do it from the heart because we need to do it, because this is what's going to help us survive. So honestly, in this entrepreneurship journey, to me, it's been so important to recognize that we need to reach further out. Not only to the entrepreneur like myself, because I have, even though I have a language barrier, Google Translate is my best associate right now, and it's been helping me, but not all of us have that ability to think outside the box. So how could we reach those entrepreneurs who are breaking their backs just to be able to do this on a daily basis, to be able to overcome and move forward with their business, but they don't have all the access to all the resources that exist. Honestly, before recently, I didn't even know what, about too much about banks or what a CDFI was. So this journey into entrepreneurship is difficult, but I am very proud to be where I am. And now my father says, hey, yes, you have accomplished, because now he sees what I am doing. And honestly, a lot of what I have been able to accomplish has been thanks to Prospera. And yes, I am doing great things with my business. And thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that I'm doing great. But I'm having to carry many hats because my company is not yet self-sustainable. So I have to work a full-time job, do my business so that my business can keep afloat even throughout the pandemic. So I had to continue working, waking up at 5 a.m, working after hours just to keep my business afloat, with the idea that one day my business actually pays me for what I feel like I should earn doing this work. Right now, my business has 11 people, 11 families who are benefited through my business. Yet we are in that growth mode right now. I don't even have any space for another cleaning service till that Wednesday of the next week. Why? Because I don't have enough funding for further payments to the employers or fair wages. Right now, employees, there is a shortage of employees. They want better pay, and of course they want better pay. It's needed, and there has been an increase in expenses. So
How am I going to pay them more if I'm not even getting paid more? I asked for $40 for an hour for my cleaning service, and I get pushback from the clients. So it goes both ways. I have that hindrance. So I wish I could give them higher benefits and salaries, but that growth, we are in that growth mode. So I feel like I'm in that just going in circles and in that hurdle. But I have the hope that we can continue growing and doing outreach to other entrepreneurs who wish they could be here, and us who are already on the way. Great thing, because we can reach out to CDFIs who could potentially loan us that money and say, hey, I see you, I believe in you.
I'm always amazed at how you do that. That's incredible. Gabi, you started Digital Jump to amplify the voices of entrepreneurs like Anaí and Kyla. So tell us a little bit more about some of the unrealistic expectations you see from investors.
Yes. So when I started Digital Jump, one of my missions was to redefine this idea of the perfect profile of an entrepreneur. And how I am doing that is through Lo que callamos las emprendedoras or Los Emprendedores, which is a podcast where I'm interviewing different entrepreneurs to tell us a little bit more about their stories. Because what I noticed in my own personal experience as the interviews I'm doing is that many times Latinos or minorities, we are being qualified based on a perfect profile or this expectation of how entrepreneur look like, or what is the path of a successful entrepreneur, and if this person had it or not. And many times, like me, I immigrated here by myself when I was 19 years old. I don't have an Ivy League degree. I'm a software engineer, but not because I had a title. It's because I'm self-taught, and I have been a technical co-founder where I prove I can build a platform, I can deal with different technical issues, and it wasn't because I have a degree; it's because I'm capable of doing it. But many times we had our doors they were closed. Even in my startup, or I heard stories about entrepreneurs that their doors were closed because at the moment where they were either requesting investment or they were trying to reach out to potential angel investor or reach out to opportunities, they were asked, okay, so for example, I remember when we were talking about investment, I was remembering one interview where Camila, she's an entrepreneur in Los Angeles, she's a lawyer and she was working for a year, and she proved already that she was there and she needed the money to scale. But all the investors were saying no to her. And when she was asking why, what can I do to prove you that this is gonna be a boom, all the investors would say, well, you first need to raise money from family and friends. And when I interviewed her, she said, I am helping my family. And that reminded to me, like at the same, when I was going to school, I was also working full time, and any income I had was to pay my school, but also to pay my cousin's school in my country. So it was an unrealistic expectation from the investor that she can prove that her business is worth it if she raised money from family and friends. So through my platform, Lo que llamamos emprendedoras, what I try to do is like to amplify her voice and to tell her story and to maybe show more of that profile. Tell us, okay, why it took maybe longer for her to get where she is now, and while she may not be able to provide to the investor like that 10x in 1 year, but she can provide maybe the 5x, and but the percentage of risk could be lower. And through like I am emprendedores, that is what I want to do, because like I'm telling you the story, Camila, that happened to me too, that there is this idea of, especially in the United States, how this entrepreneur should look like, how this engineer should look like, and that is unrealistic, especially in our community. So yeah.
Thank you. And to wrap it up real quick, I would love to just pass around one more time, super quick, 10 seconds. Maybe what are your last words for the audience here today? What would you like them to leave with?
Okay, sorry. So when I was sharing this story before, somebody asked me, but what can I do, right? Like, or can you give me an example? Then how can I change things? And one example is my first job as an engineer. I remember the interview. It was a company, ThoughtWorks. I don't know if anyone knows. It's a consulting software company, and I went through the whole interview, and then the person stopped in the end and said, "You know what, Gabby? I just want to ask you, tell me something I didn't ask you. Tell me more about yourself." And that's what would like the audience to say. You know, if you're an investor, if you're, I don't know, if you're going to talk to an entrepreneur, don't just ask the typical questions. Maybe give the space and opportunity for the entrepreneur to tell you more about how or what the stories behind or where they are now. And maybe through making that a space, it can give you the opportunity to really kind of unveil, I think is the word, like to open, unveil something that maybe typically you would don't know if you don't provide this space. Algo con lo que quiero que se vayan. Quiero que se vayan con la idea de que están haciendo un maravilloso trabajo, pero todavía hace falta más. Hay que dar más accesibilidad a nuestra comunidad latina, a nuestros emprendedores latinos. Hay que poner nuestras becas en español. Hay que darles un asesor que los ayude a navegar en la tecnología. Hay que dar más oportunidades. Están haciéndolo muy bien, pero todavía faltan muchas más necesidades.
So she's saying, you're doing great work, but we still have more to do. We need to make sure that we're creating more accessibility to our Latino community and to entrepreneurs so that making grants available in Spanish, giving them technical assistance. We need to create more opportunities. You're doing a great job, but there is a lot more to meet our needs.
So oftentimes I hear like, oh, your company is great and I would love to invest, but I don't have that kind of money and I can't write a big check. You actually don't need to write a check to help our businesses. Invite us into your lives the way that you are already living them, right? Invite us to your happy hour. Tell your office manager, hey, I found this drink that I love. I would love to see it at the next gathering, right? It's not all about the capital. It's just about getting us into the networks and the way that you are already living your lives and amplifying our voices.
Kyla, I wanted to jump on that because that is what I wanted to say too. Sometimes we feel like we need all this money to invest in these businesses, but every dollar counts, and every day we're spending it, and we're voting with that money. So let's be conscious of where we are investing that money in, and really making sure that we are supporting businesses like these. There's so much to be done, but we can do so much with so little. So thank you all very much. A big round of applause for these amazing women. And now I'll pass it on to.
First of all, Anais, thank you for facilitating that panel. She is an entrepreneur herself, and so is Adriana. These women not only work at LCF, they have launched their businesses and be successful at it.
Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Let me say that one more time because it's worth repeating. Anais, Adriana, and our team are not just members of the LCF family, they are entrepreneurs and they are successful entrepreneurs. And when they sit and stand and listen, they are doing it from a place of experience because they have walked the walk alongside many entrepreneurs and are doing it themselves. So I just want to thank you, and I want to give you the microphone, Adri, to say a few words, and then I'll close this out.
Okay. Thank you. And you know why that is, Jacqueline? Because when we read the job description to work with you and the LCF team, one of the first questions is, are you entrepreneurial? Because that's the type of people that we need at LCF. And so I think when I look at our team, something like this doesn't happen because we get told this is what needs to happen. We have ideas, we are creative, and we're people that get stuff done. So I just want to take a moment to acknowledge all the work that Vero
Vero has put into this event, the many meetings and calls that she held to bring us to this point, Max, as well from the economic justice team, Masha for stepping in this last week and everything she does to guide us with her spirit and her love, and the entire team who stepped in today, yesterday, Ari, everything that she does for communications. This all happens because we're all entrepreneurs, I think. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you to everybody that stood up here or sat down in those chairs to share their stories. And I hope you all walk away with a little bit of the LCF love that happens when we come together.
And that you're ready to be a part of it, that you're ready to join this family, help it keep growing. And Katia and Ariana, who are sitting back there, for keeping our online community engaged. Thank you for being videographers, producers, photographers, doing it all. I love that, Adri, just remind, like, we are by nature entrepreneurs. Each of you are. So thank you for sticking around. Kyla, we will tell everybody we know about Agua Bonita. Sky, we are taking your words with us today and spreading it wherever we go. We will celebrate our tias, our tios, our abuelitas, and our mothers and our fathers throughout this month. And even though Latino Heritage Month starts today and is supposed to end October 15, we are Latinos, so we take over the full year. So let's keep celebrating. The DJ will play some music. Let's get the moves on. Some wine is outside. So stick around, get to know who's in this room, and let's keep building together. And thank you for joining us.